Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 18 of the Capitalist Corner. I am your host, Mark Pellegrino, and the founder of the American Capitalist Party, and also the chairman of the American Capitalist Party. I should say co-founder. Mom brain is kicking in now. With my esteemed guest, Michael Liebowitz, who is the co-chairman of the American Capitalist Party and also the host of the great show, The Rational Egoist.
Great show. Yes.
It is a great show. It's a fantastic show. And I hope you guys watched the debate between he and James Valiant. It went round and round, but I think there were some very, very important issues discussed there, especially for objectivists. And anybody who wonders what values are, I think you will know what they are by the end of that debate. Let's put it that way, and how important they are to human action and human life. We have a few articles that we're going to take care of at some point today. I'm leaving early at 9:30 because I have a pre-scheduled appointment, so Michael's going to be doing the rest of the show from that point on. But I wanted to hear Michael's rant, because you said beforehand you had a rant that you wanted to go on.
I do, and people can comment. And what I'm hoping is once you leave, maybe we can talk about my rant.
Okay, so good.
Maybe. I don't know. My sense of time is shot. We'll say 2 months ago, I made a post where I said that MAGA devotees are either dishonest or dumb. And somebody that's in the communications business got in touch with me, and he says, you're never going to grow your brand that way. You're going to turn people off. You don't want to do that. So I've tried to not do that. It's not easy. And it gets to the point where it's like, I don't even know if I want to do that. I've read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, probably 30 times. I know, the techniques. But ultimately, if being successful means I have to cater to that bullshit, I would rather stay poor, have my spine intact, and be able to fix my eyes squarely on the mirror. Because let me tell you what happened this morning. People are probably familiar by now. I know you are, because I sent it to you, with the story about how the National Institute of Health wants to collect private information of American citizens in order to do a autism study. I've seen this story in numerous places, but I caught it specifically this morning in a very quotable piece from the Free Press. So I copied that, I sent it to you, and I also posted it to Facebook and X. So the response I got from one guy, he says, well, you didn't cite a source, and I doubt this is true. I said, well, I literally cited the Free Press. So then he responds, but the Free Press isn't a good source. So now we've gone from no source to not a good source. Okay. So I went and I found probably 10 sources. U.S. News and World Report, The Guardian, CNN, CBS.
Not good sources.
Hold on. No, but hold on. I deliberately included Fox News.
Okay.
Deliberately, because I know what's coming with this discussion. So I deliberately included Fox News, posted them all. Then the response was, oh, as I thought. He says, the girl that posted that to the Free Press is just an intern. She isn't even, she's not even a journalist. Okay. He then says, and all those other sources are the usual sources of misinformation. Okay. I can accept skepticism, right? I can, because the media has earned it. But then he says, the only good source you have was Fox. And he says, Jay Bhattacharya even says that nobody has to worry about their confidentiality. Okay, so you're skeptical of every source, but you're not skeptical of Fox, and you're not skeptical of the government official. You, sir, are not a serious person, right? Like, this is, so I told him, look, I said, I've given you 10 sources, and forgive me if I don't believe the government official that you're referring to. I said, if you want to live in your hermetically sealed bubble that allows you to believe whatever you want, fine, take care. He comes back and he says, your snide response is noted. And I said, as it was intended. I'm trying to have a conversation here, not play find the source that suits your inclinations. And afterwards, I thought about, that wasn't the way to win friends and influence people. And some people may say, well, you're not going to grow that way, with the podcast, with the party. But such people deserve contempt. I can't get around that conclusion. That's what they deserve. They deserve to be scoffed at, to be told you're not a serious human being. You're not a serious thinker. You're not even a serious skeptic. What you are is just a MAGA cultist who is going to believe whatever they tell you. And I would have the same contempt for the left when they do it. So what do you do, Mark? I mean, like, we're trying to grow a political party. I'm trying to grow a talk show, right? And I'm told, well, these are the people that are out there that you want to bring in. Really? Do we really want to bring them in? Really? I don't think I do. And I don't think I want to pretend to be something I'm not to cater to them. I don't think I want to feign patience. I don't want to pretend that they've got a legitimate point of view. Like I said, if somebody were to say, listen, the media has misled us so much, I simply don't believe any of it anymore, I can respect that. I don't agree, but I can respect it. But you're not a skeptic. You're not a critical thinker. And I'm not going to pretend you are. Is that reasonable? Am I being unreasonable here? I don't think so.
There are many people out there in the audience watching us today who would say Pellegrino is the exact wrong person to ask this question to.
And I've criticized you for this, Mark.
Yes, you have. And I think justifiably so. However, there is that little thing called our integrity that we have to live with. We do have to look at ourselves in the mirror in the morning. And when it comes to issues as fundamental as politics and values, there really is no compromise. I mean, politics is a reflection of your values, right, in the social world. So there really can be no compromise. And when you come up against people who are cynically skeptical on purpose, just because they want to hold on to a messianic vision of a guy, you can't help but feel a sense of injustice at their inability to engage their rational faculty. How can you not feel a sense of injustice? Like, people will go like, God, Pellegrino, you're pissed. Yeah, that's the natural reaction when I come up against injustice and stupidity. Deliberate stupidity, not stupidity on accident or ignorance. That's we're all stupid on accident and ignorant about something, for crying out loud. But we have the type of value system that pushes us towards trying to fill those gaps and understand what we don't know. But people who are ignorant and stupid on purpose makes you feel a sense of grave injustice. And I think that's a very healthy place from your ego to come to. And I'd rather have a healthy ego and be less prosperous in the material world than compromised on every level and be incredibly wealthy and famous. Look, there's a reason there's an extreme amount of neurosis and unhappiness in Hollywood, why they're on drugs, and so many of them die tragic deaths, because so many of them feel they have to be politicians, in the sense that they have to straddle moral lines that no normal human being would have to straddle. They have to do unfortunate things. They have to compromise their values in order to win some kind of role that they wanted. And then they have to live with that terrible guilt and anguish forever and ever and ever and ever. And I think that's what lends itself to the neurosis of the Hollywood syndrome, where people are so damned unhappy and rich at the same time. And you think they have everything, but they got it at the price of selling their souls, many of them. Well, not many of them, a number, enough to enough to be noticeable. And people say that about me with respect to shows, because there have been fans that have lined up. Mostly they're psychopathic, but they line up to an attempt to get me fired from shows and from the convention circuit, because they don't like what I say, and because I don't pull my punches with them when they're rude to me. So I believe in reciprocity of treatment. If you treat me nicely, I will treat you nicely. If you treat me badly, now here you and I may have disagreements, and you're probably more in the right than I am. If you treat me badly, I'm going to smack you around just because you deserve it, because mommy didn't give you a spanking when you were younger, you weren't corrected, and so now that bad behavior is translated over into your adult life, and you need a correction now. Might as well be from me, because you don't want it in the street or some other godforsaken place where it's caught on CCTV and broadcast on Steve Inman's comedy Twitter feed for the rest of the world to see. You want that correction to happen in a relatively peaceful place like Twitter. That's okay. I'm actually helping you. So
I wanted to say real quickly, Alan Thomas asked me, why did you feel as though the burden of proof rested upon you? Alan, hold that thought, because I want to get to the articles, but when Mark leaves, I will answer your question and any other questions that anybody has.
Although I am interested in that, because I have an answer to that as well, because people wonder why I get in the fisticuffs that I get into.
Well, let me just say this. I love Mark Pellegrino, people. I really do. He's not just my co-host here. He's a good friend of mine, and a really good guy. But Mark gets into telling people he'll choke them out. Like, I'm not doing that. I just want to be clear. I get impatient and I tell them they're dumb, but I don't tell them I'll take you in the back or on the mat and that kind of stuff. So we're not really talking about the same thing there.
Wait. I need to qualify.
Okay.
Because most of the time, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. Most of the time, that's perceived.
Hold on, I got a question real quick, Mark. Dr. iScope, whose volume is better, mine or Mark's? Whose is louder, I should say? Dr. iScope says he enjoys the show, but the difference in volume, it's not good. So I want to know exactly. Thank you for the feedback. I just want to know who.
It's probably, since my microphone is boss.
Nicole Hingle says it's mine.
Yeah, I knew it, baby.
Well, then Greg Lewis says Mark. And then this guy says mine is louder. Mark says Mark is pretty quiet comparatively. So I don't know now whose mic needs to be fixed. I don't know.
Crazy. Is there? Well, we'll see. We're both semi-boomers when it comes to technology. So
well, you can turn up your volume. They're saying you're too quiet. Yes. So there is a way to turn up your volume. I wish you knew how to do it.
Oh wait, well, let me see. Can you instruct me through it, or is it too late now? We need to do it like in the off time.
I cannot instruct you to do it because I don't know what your screen looks like. Like on my screen, I have this thing on the bottom. It says mute, stop cam, settings, present, invite, leave studio.
Yeah, same.
You have that. Okay, so go to your settings.
Yes.
And now on your left, it should you should have something that says volume, audio.
Yeah. So let me turn that up. I just turned that up.
Nice. Okay.
So let's see if that helps. Anybody, does that help? Because we're about to tell real funny stories here. No, I don't know if they're funny. I'll just keep talking anyway. And
all right, you sound louder. And Robert Naser has said that I am a loudmouth.
Good.
Which is okay. I don't mind.
I like the.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, in all fairness, when I've threatened to choke somebody out, they've threatened to beat me up. So I'm like, okay, if you want to beat me up, let's just get it over with already. Tell me where you live. I'll fly there and we'll arrange something. Now, look. The reason I do this, there's a reason behind it. I know it seems like it's absolutely crazy thing to do, but here's the reason. I feel like internet bullying gives weak incel type soy-titted men an opportunity to exercise their inner bully, which they would never do in an actual physical confrontation with another person. Now, it could be that some of these people are actually tough, but I don't know. And I certainly don't like the fact that they think they can do this with impunity on social media, because they have been able to do it with impunity on social media, because most people run scared or they get in their little fight on the internet. Both sides satisfy their fake pride and then move on. So I decided to challenge this. It started a while back when some guy was telling me he was a black belt in Brazil.
But Mark,
wait,
you think that's going to stop it?
He's going to kick my ass, and I was like, okay, then we'll do stand up. Let's just get in the ring, and I don't care if you can grapple me because I'm going to punch you in the face. And he backed off. Now, I just did this to stop the bullying pattern. Okay, I did it to stop the bullying pattern. Now, I know it's not quite as effective, and you look embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed.
I'm not embarrassed, but
You're
it's just,
hiding.
it doesn't make it stop. They don't care. They don't even have their real name on there.
Those particular ones did care because they stopped and they left me alone. The second they discovered that I could actually go to their place, I could actually engage them if they wanted me to, stopped.
Yeah, if they're using their real name, which most do not.
Right, they stopped. Well, another guy challenged me to a street fight somewhere in Sweden.
Oh my God!
Like, what are you 5? Or are you a girl? Because men don't get in street fights. And then we went through a whole negotiation process where he wanted me to go to his jihadist gym and work it out with him.
Is that what it's actually called, the jihadi gym?
No, that's what it was. I could tell that's what it was. He wouldn't go out of the region, to meet me. Anyway, that's besides the point. I understand the perspective that I probably shouldn't be saying, I'm going to choke you. I am giving vent to my inner feeling of total and absolute injustice when I'm dealing with somebody who's an absolute liar and a charlatan and worse, a snake oil salesman. They're pulling the wool over people's eyes. It's a sort of natural response that I should inhibit. I got to take Leibowitz's advice here. I should inhibit, because it's a natural response to want to harm a person who deliberately is harming others. Now that's my sheepdog instinct coming out. I got to put the kibosh on it. I think I've been better. Let me
tell you, I'm going to tell you quick, and we got to get to some stories. But what you're talking about that happens online is very familiar to me, because in prison we have something that's called cell gangsters. And what cell gangsters are they're people, when the doors are locked, run their mouths because they can't be got to. So it's a very common term in prison, is the cell gangster. And I find that the keyboard warrior is very analogous. Okay, now that we've discussed Mark and my emotional problems, we can actually get to
let's go to the National Institutes of Health, because that was the thing that kicked this all off. So it seems like the National Institutes of Health wants to invade the privacy of pretty much everyone on planet Earth, but specifically in America, in order to fulfill Kennedy's dream of discovering the reasons for autism. He's obsessed with the climb in autism and seems to think there's a singular cause. He did say, I am determined to find an environmental cause. Now that seems very unscientific to me from the get-go. Yeah. He's trying to poison the well from the get-go. But the fact that the National Institutes of Health feel that they have the right to invade the private medical records of citizens of the United States of America to fulfill some goal for the quote-unquote common good is a frightening prospect for anybody. It should be frightening to you. It's frightening to me. First of all, the National Institutes of Health should not exist, number one, let alone have the power to go into your private medical records and use you as a lab rat, unofficial lab rat for their experiments, or for their attempt to find a solution to the quote unquote autism problem, which is now the obsession with Make America Healthy Again. What do you think about this? Because this just strikes me as absolutely insane. And Doge was trying to do the same thing, trying to access private social security numbers and private financial information, all of which, folks, even if you agree with what Doge is doing, could be extremely dangerous in the hands of the government.
It's none of your goddamn business, RFK, what is in people's files. I don't care what your lifelong obsession is. I don't care what your daddy issues are, or whatever other conspiracy crap you have going on in your head. You do not have the right to the medical information of Americans. And it seems to me that this is a deeply disturbed individual who has an obsession with proving vaccines are the cause of autism, despite the fact that all the experts, and yes, I said experts, say no. And it's one of these situations. Okay, you want to
express what they say, because what they say is actually quite good.
They say there's no link between vaccines and autism. They say it's been proven over and over and over again. There's
Not
just
only
no
that,
link.
but they also cite multi-causal issues for the phenomenon.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, there's when they do studies, whatever. I mean, you have meta-analyses. There's all types of things that they do. So, and if you're out there and you're saying, oh, but we don't trust the experts, they let us down. Okay, fine. You don't trust the experts. But you know who I definitely don't trust? RFK Jr. Right? So even if we don't trust what the experts say, that doesn't then lead us into the conclusion that we need to trust RFK Jr.'s intuitions and allow him to dig through Americans' medical records to satisfy his curiosity. Right? So that's my take on this. Is I think it's very scary. Like, and the guy who said to me this morning, well, they've said that they'll protect your privacy. Yeah, didn't they say that they would only use their eavesdropping on phone calls to spy on foreigners? And then it turned out they had a database of Americans. But now we're going to believe them again, I guess, because it's our side. Well, not my side, but you know what I mean. It's all garbage. The tribalism is at a height that I've never seen in my life. It scares the hell out of me. And to sum up, keep your goddamn hands off the medical records of Americans. It's not your business. Well, it's not your business either, Mark, but it's not RFK's business.
It's not RFK's business. It's not my business. And that's what makes America exceptional. I know guys like Sean Hannity constantly talk about American exceptionalism and rarely define it. But one of the many things that make us exceptional, which comes under the rubric of individual rights, because we're exceptional in that respect, is that the government cannot touch us. Your home is your castle. Castle doctrine is a real thing for Americans. This is a place where the king cannot pass. We are our own kings in our own little fiefdoms, and nobody has a right to take that away from you. So, yeah, the NIH is certainly trespassing on the rights of people. Certainly, they, if they want to get to the causes of autism, even though they shouldn't even exist. I'm sure they can find enough voluntary people to engage as subjects of inquiry, and they could have enough people volunteer to get a sampling that could more or less give them some better ideas. Although I think the scientific community seems to be on it. It's an extremely difficult condition to pinpoint a singular issue as cause. It's a multifaceted group of environmental, dietary, multiple issues that are happening at the same time to create this condition. And Kennedy ain't going to find the factor he's looking for that he can control and then limit and or restrain the rest of us from having. There's this article. This isn't necessarily a segue, but I guess it sort of is in a way, because Trump continues to fight the due process of he continues to fight process. You hear Stephen Miller is especially egregious at this. Have you listened to his interviews on Fox?
Not lately, but I have heard him in the past. He seems very strange. I'll just put it that way. Very strange personality.
Strange personality, gung-ho about leaving process behind, complaining about process. Here's a quote from Trump from this article in Reason magazine. Now, I try not to laugh when I give you this quote, Michael. Audience, try not to laugh. Here's what he said in a social media post on Monday. Trump wrote, quote, "We cannot give everyone a trial because to do so would take, without exaggeration, 300 years." Now, I just find that funny. Yeah, it takes a long time to do this thing called due process, because that's what you do when you subordinate might to right, right? You restrain might by enabling people to make their case as they deserve to do, since they're being accused of violent crimes. Now, it's not just that they're saying these people are illegal and need to be deported because they're going against what we also consider unconstitutional immigration laws, but that they're going against these laws. they're asserting that they're committing criminal acts, that they're involved in human trafficking, which is now what they're saying about Garcia. The new thing is he's a human trafficker. Before he was just MS-13 and he beat his wife up sometimes, but now he's a human trafficker because, of course, that gets everybody's dander up. But they're accusing these people of human trafficking, drug dealing, illicit drug dealing, robberies, murders, assaults, mayhem. I mean, all kinds of terrible crimes, which may be true, but we don't know because they haven't gone through due process. No official, there's been no official court case against a single one of these people. And yes, it might take a long time to go through that process. But if you're going to deport people based on crimes that they've allegedly committed, and they keep saying that on Fox News, these people are alleged gang members. They've allegedly committed these crimes. Last I heard, those people need to be detained and prepared for court. And if you're alleged it's something, they need to prove that what they're alleging is so. Am I crazy about this? I mean, because
no,
the right
no.
is trying to make people feel crazy and like
they're actually at the point where they're scoffing at due process. Like you hear them say, things of nature. Yeah, I guess he didn't have the proper process, and they joke. But if you want to deport so many people that you can't give them due process, perhaps you're deporting too many people. This reminds me of the situation in the criminal justice system where it's been so bastardized because of plea bargains. But the reason is because the state simply can't bring everybody to trial. So you end up with the plea bargaining situation. And it would be, if you would just get rid of the most ridiculous of crimes, drug offenses, all that stuff, you would eliminate a lot of that problem. And in this case, if you would stop trying to deport farmers and claiming that they're MS-13, and I'm not saying that is the case with this guy, but I have heard this morning, listening to the Daily, I know New York Times, can't be trusted, liberal, yada, 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 but they estimate that about 30 of the 200 some odd people that have been deported to this prison in El Salvador, only 30 plus of them have criminal records. Well, we were told at the beginning that that's who they were going after primarily.
If that's the case, that's terrible. And this needs to be taken care of immediately, because the Trump administration is going to lose a lot of legitimacy on this. Now, this is the one area in which they don't seem to be losing percentage points, popularity points. They're losing in almost every area now. Some of the people are waking up. The tariffs are waking them up, which is why they're trying to shift tariff policy around once again, because the population understands, thankfully.
4D chess.
Yeah, 4D chess, that's what it is. I would call it something else. But this particular area is a loser. I know that, there are racist MAGA folks out there that think it's perfectly fine to deport people like this because they're breaking immigration law alone. But not giving people due process is as un-American as you can possibly get, and eventually it's going to catch up to the Trump administration. They're going to lose popularity here, particularly when it starts coming down against citizens, and it already sort of is starting to happen, according to one article, I think by NPR, that you'll have to discuss because I have to get going right now. But I wanted to. I like Eric Clayton's concept here with respect to autism. The cause of autism is changing diagnosis criteria based on bad psychoepistemology premises. Now that could be possible too.
I think it's part of it. I don't attribute it all to that. I think there's also better means that they have now of examining people, of testing their aptitude along various measures. So I don't think that's it, but I do think that does play a large part in it. Is when you change the diagnostic criteria, you're going to catch more people in the net. I mean, it's not autism anymore. It's the autistic spectrum. And that, I think, has gone a long way toward the increase.
Indeed.
Doesn't mean it's wrong. I'm just saying that it means that that will get you more people diagnosed.
I also think the way in which people are learning visually instead of tackling concepts in a disorganized fashion where where concepts are not unified into a whole, and being slammed into curriculum where their brains are developing in a different place, and being forced to do other things where their brains perhaps aren't ready to tackle those subjects. I think that's also precipitating these events, the anxiety and the events that people seem to be feeling on such a deep level in the younger generation. But now I have to go.
And
So
leave me all by my lonesome.
I'm going to leave you all by your lonesome. But folks,
With the capitalist thought of the day for the second day in a row, I'm getting stuck with it. I can
okay,
see.
so I'll do it. So I'll do it. I will do it Friday and Monday together. So don't.
By Monday, you're going to forget, and so will I. So we can't really say that.
I don't think you'll forget.
I probably won't.
All right, but folks, I leave you in good hands with Michael until tomorrow, folks. Tomorrow's going to be a Q&A day, so bring questions. You can ask the chairman and the co-chair anything you want, almost anything you want. Don't get pornographic, but you can ask us anything you want about about politics, philosophy, something that we might know about, and we will be sure to answer it. Until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks, Michael.
All right, Mark.
Peace.
Bye. Oh, Mark, you got to call me too. I forgot. I'm supposed to interview him later. All right. So first, I want to just address the good point here that Alan Thomas made, that as Trump is claiming that he doesn't have enough time to try all these people, he's firing immigration judges, which is kind of contradictory and does demonstrate that he's not really interested in it. He's just making excuses. So Alan Thomas asked me earlier, why in the case of the gentleman this morning did I feel that the burden of proof was on me? Well, because I made the claim. I made the post that said that they were setting up this database to collect the medical information of Americans. So since I made the made the claim, I felt it was incumbent upon me to make the case. So that's what I did. I also have to admit that I went overboard on the amount of articles that I presented, and I did it intentionally because I was slightly annoyed by the initial question, because I felt I knew where it was going. When someone says, well, I don't like that source, what they want is you to find the one source that actually agrees with them. But ultimately, if I make the case, if I make the claim, it's up to me to demonstrate that it's a legitimate claim. Are there any other questions about that specific issue about dealing with people on social media, whether it's appropriate to be impatient with them or snide with them? Well, Alan says, tell them to bring their sources to the table. Well, the problem, Alan, is he wasn't making a claim. I was. My claim was that this is occurring. So when you say that this is occurring, there's not likely to be a specific source that says this is not occurring. I'm making the claim. I have to prove it, which is why I proceeded to do just that. There's actually a broader issue at play here that I think warrants discussion also. And that's this. Somebody asked on my social media page, my Facebook page this morning, about my debate with William Swig. And the question was, why would anybody debate such a person? Well, first of all, I made an open offer to any people who claim to be objectivists that are Trump supporters, not Trump voters, Trump supporters. I said I would debate them. So I wasn't going to say no to this one guy. The reason that I would do that is because I think these people are dangerous, and I think that ignoring them, pretending that they don't exist, not confronting them is the wrong approach to take. Now, there's some in the objectivist world that say, well, you shouldn't debate people that are dishonest, or you shouldn't debate people that aren't legitimately interested in ideas. You're lending them your sanction. I disagree with that, and I think that they need to be confronted. They need to be defeated. And the way you do that is by dealing with them. If you do what Joe Rogan does and just bring them on and talk to them and treat them seriously and just, don't challenge them, that's something wrong. But debating, you're literally trying to show that they're mistaken, that they're wrong, that, that they are not legitimate, that their point of view is not correct. And I'm not going to appeal to her authority, but I will say this is that a lot of objectivists have this notion. They have this idea. You shouldn't debate people, or you shouldn't go on to people's shows, for instance, that you disagree with, or that you find to be bad people or immoral people, or that aren't legitimately interested in ideas. The problem is that Ayn Rand didn't take that approach. Ayn Rand went on Phil Donahue. She went on Johnny Carson. She went on with Mike Wallace. Mike Wallace, she may at the time have thought was seriously interested in ideas, but clearly she didn't think that was the case when it came to Phil Donahue or Johnny Carson. There was also a professor, and I can't remember his name, maybe Jim can tell us, who interviewed her. She also had engaged in debates previously with a bunch of young anarchists that were, in her circle. George Reisman was amongst them. So if Ayn Rand didn't hold that you should never engage or debate with people that you think aren't serious, or that you think don't agree with you, then I hardly think it can be stated to be an objectivist position. Now, one can argue it's still the wrong position to debate them, but you can't claim it under the objectivist mantle. And that seems to be what some folks do. And so the reason that it's my go-to to debate, it's almost like when you have somebody, if you think of two fighters, street fighters, and one keeps talking junk to the other, and the guy says, look, let's just have it out. Let's just fight. Because at some point there's nothing left to do. And it reminds me of Julian Simon, the economist, when he was mocked by lots of people for his fringe views on the environment, the population, that sort of thing. And finally he said, well, let's make a bet. Just put your money where your mouth is. So that's one of the reasons that I say, well, let's debate, because I just get tired of people posting on social media. Another reason is because I think it's important to get ideas out there and get them discussed. And I think it's very important that my ideas win. And I'm very confident when debating the ideas that I hold that I can win these debates with almost anybody. And I think it's important to defeat bad ideas. Even if those ideas are dishonest, it's important to expose them as being such. So Aaron Alfeche, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly. If I didn't, I apologize. He says, not all fights are worth fighting. You have a limited time and only so much intellectual power. Focus it where it's most effective. I agree with you 100% that not all fights are worth effective. I do think that my intellectual focus is served very well in engaging in debates about the subjects that interest me, because I'm good at it. I enjoy it. And I think that my ideas ultimately win out. Nicole Hingle asked me, if Joe Rogan invited me on his show, would I go? Yes, I would, but it would depend ultimately on what he wanted to talk about. Joe is not really a strongly opinionated person, so I don't think he would invite me on to debate. He would probably ask, if I were ever to go, it would probably be to ask questions, and that'd be fine with me. I would go on and talk. I don't think that would be lending sanction to Joe Rogan if he just let me put my points of view out there. And if he challenged me, that would be great, because I would be able to defend my positions. Now, I would not go on a show like Tucker Carlson, for instance, or Dave Smith, unless it was explicitly to challenge them, to debate them. Then I would go on with them, but I wouldn't go on with somebody like an Ian Carroll. I wouldn't go on his show, I don't think, or that other asshole, Nick Fuentes. I wouldn't go on with him. I would go to debate Clint Russell. Certainly. I wouldn't go on there and pretend to be his pal or his friend. That I would not do. Katrin Kohler says, it's kind of a related question, but regarding social media in general, do you think it's always important to call people out if they are wrong about something or deliberately spreading, she said this is one or two, lies or hate, or is it sometimes better to ignore them, to not give them more attention? I think it's a judgment call. There's people I don't give any attention to. Sometimes I do. And sometimes it's just, I might have something else to do. If it's 11:56 and I've got to get on to do this show, I'm not going to be responding to every schmuck on social media. And then, by the time I get back to it, when this goes off, I've got to download the videos to YouTube. I've got to make other videos, post other stuff, get it off to Mark. So there's just an abundance of things that I have to do. I don't have time to address them. And by the time I get back to it, there's going to be a lot of other comments. Aaron Alfeche asked, is there any reason why I don't listen to Yaron Brook? I to be honest, I really don't listen to anything. I listen to maybe a half hour of a podcast in the morning. Usually I just do it to get my news because I've got a lot to do. It just has to do with time management. I have a job. I have another podcast. I have this. I have my responsibilities as the vice chair of the American Capitalist Party. Plus I have my girlfriend to attend to. So there's just a lot. That's why I don't listen to him. I've interviewed Yaron Brook. I have no issue with him. But the topic came up because William Swig was asking me, you're telling me about Yaron Brook's character or what he talks about on his show, which I just don't know. So I couldn't comment on it. But when I interviewed Yaron Brook, he certainly seemed nice enough, and he's a very bright guy. I really enjoyed his book, The Free Market Revolution. I thought it was great. He says he's hoping to see me on the Yaron Brook show. Well, perhaps propose it to him. Somebody else proposed it to him, but when the person proposed it to him, it was at the time that Yaron was coming on my show. So I guess maybe he didn't think it was a good idea or whatever. But if he would have me on, I certainly would go on with Yaron Brook. I don't have any issue with him. Like I said, it's not out of spite that I don't listen to him. Sometimes I listen to his debate with Leonard Peikoff, for instance, or I listen to his debate with Brian Kaplan as well. I think I listened to some of his debate with Richard Wolff, but I just don't have time to listen to his show every day. I'm just too involved with other things. But I would love to see me on his show as well, Aaron. So if anybody wants to recommend to Yaron Brook, feel free to do so. And he follows me and I follow him on Twitter. So if you just tag him there, I'm sure the message will get to him. Any other questions do we have here? I'm having a good time here answering your questions. It's better than me having to figure out what I want to talk about. Joseph says, I was going to tell you that the volume difference is noticeable, especially when wearing my AirPods. Michael, you were too loud compared to Mike and other guests. James, that is, and he says, yes, Mark, that is better. Joseph, am I still too loud relative to the other guests? You say it's better, so I'm just curious what your thoughts are. I can turn the volume down. I've been yelled at before by guests telling me that my microphone was too low, which is why I turned it up. So I'm just curious. If it's still too loud, I will adjust it. Well, I didn't get anything yet. Hopefully he'll come back and give me his thoughts on the subject. There was also an article that I sent over to Mark that was interesting. I believe it was from the Mises Institute. I'm not positive, so let me just go check so that I can confirm. Oh, Joseph is still listening to the start of the show, Katrin says. So he is not live, I guess. Okay, I get it. That makes sense. Okay, so only time will tell with other guests. The guy says, Dr. Eyescope. I'm assuming it's a guy. I guess that might be my chauvinism that's coming into play. Yes, there's a article. Yes, what? Yes, I still have a problem, Joseph, or yes, I'm good now. Okay, Dr. Eyescope is a guy. So the article in the Mises Institute is called Marxism's Fragile Foundation, the Labor Theory of Value. So without getting into the extreme technicalities of this stuff, going back to the classical economists, Adam Smith, David Ricardo, it was taught that let me turn my volume down just a little. Okay, hopefully it'll be better now. It was taught that the amount of labor hours put into a given job or the amount of labor put into a given product determine that product's value. Marx caught on to that and used it to teach about how if labor creates value, then where are these capitalists coming from? Why are the capitalists making money? The capitalists are obviously exploiting the labor, the surplus value that's generated, and it's confiscated, basically appropriated by the capitalists, ripping off the worker. What happened in 1871, however, is three separate economists simultaneously discovered the marginal theory of value. It's called the marginal revolution. It was William Stanley Jevons, Leon Walras, I'm probably pronouncing that one wrong, and Carl Menger. In the marginal utility theory of value teaches that the value of a given product is determined at the margins. It means that the value is determined by the next use to which it's going to be put. So okay, I've got a future tip for me and Gilmore. Thank you. So in other words, it solved the water diamond paradox. Why is water so inexpensive? Diamonds are so expensive when water is so much more valuable. Well, the reason is because water is available in abundance. So right now I'm drinking water, right? And I have all the drinking water that I need. I also shower with water. I give the dogs water. I clean the car with water. There's all these different things. So the value of water would be determined by what I need it for. So if I'm going out to get water, I'm not going to pay for water right now as if I'm dying of thirst. I'm going to pay for water according to what I'm going to use it for. So once the marginalists came along, they eviscerated the labor theory of value and should have put Marxism out of business permanently. But Marxists are stubborn, or they're just anti-logic, so they stick around. So I'd highly recommend that article. It's from the Mises Institute. Take a look at it. I think you'll like it. It's a good one, especially if you aren't familiar with these issues. It will give you some insight into what's going on. Also, you can, of course, read Ludwig von Mises's book. He's written articles on the socialist calculation debate. His book, Socialism, is phenomenal. Eugen von Bulwerk, I'm probably butchering his name, also demonstrated that Marx confused profit with interest in his analysis. And Ayn Rand, of course, makes the perfect moral case for capitalism over socialism. I'm hoping this tip works out for me, Ian, but I don't have, I don't know, maybe I do have compression. I don't even know what that is, to be honest with you. I don't know what much of this stuff is. I'm sure I can look it up. I've had quite a bit to learn since getting out of the big house. Okay, are there any other questions before I wrap up and get back to posting on social media and reading the stuff I need to read? Okay, there isn't. So let me think of my capitalist thought of the day. My capitalist thought of the day is this. Capitalism is the best economic system, the most moral economic system that has ever been implemented by human beings. Even though it hasn't been implemented perfectly, the aspects of it that have been implemented have been phenomenal in terms of protecting individual rights, in terms of economic growth, raising people out of poverty, increasing our quality of life, our lifespans, and probably every other metric you could possibly think of. It is a shame that communists, socialists, and all of their ilk are still around, including your run-of-the-mill leftists, your MAGA Republicans, all the big government people, all the people who think that the government should be intervening in the economy. The government should be doing no such thing. The sole purpose of government, the sole legitimate purpose of government, is to protect the individual rights of its citizens. And with that, I will bid you adieu and see you tomorrow. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you will continue to do so.